guys, my name is Jackie, welcome back to my channel. I follow a keto lifestyle. If you're new here, I've lost 92 pounds. Sunday is my day of prepping, ready for the week, the battle ahead that is every Monday morning. And I've got 3 things I'm going to prep today. I apologise in advance for the noise and things and the light. We have had quite a pleasant morning and suddenly the skies have opened and it is chucking it down. Proper English summer. And but I'm going to spend the next probably hour or two. I try to keep my meal prepped for about an hour and a half a week, just getting myself ready. So I've got a main meal, I've got a nice sweet treat, and I've also got some snacks. So hopefully this will be giving me some nice groundwork for the rest of the week. If you're not already, please consider pressing the subscribe button. I'd love to have you. And let me know what you think. What would you do? Have you got any variations of the recipes that I am making? Let me know below what you would do is different. I love ideas. So I'll flip you around and show you what I'm cooking. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to make a start on are some Fatbombs. I've been trying to find somewhere just to buy them. I think it's a lot less hassle, but I just can't find anywhere in the UK that does. I know Slim Fast USA makes and sells them, but it's not quite ready over here yet. So this is a recipe that I found on Facebook, and it's actually in the comments of a post about it, and she copied and pasted it. But the woman did say she couldn't remember where she got the recipe from, so she couldn't tell us. So therefore I can't tell you, and I don't want to share her name because it's just a lady off Facebook. So there's 3 components, which is a base, a caramel layer and a chocolate layer, and each one has 2 or 3 ingredients, so it's not overly complex. So the base is a mixture of flour and butter, which you just mix, melt, shove in the oven and bake. And then you make the caramel, which is double cream, and I put a space, carriage return there, duh, butter, and then it says Truville or other sweeteners may work. But it needs to be on that stevia base. Now I haven't got any, I've got erythritol, so I don't know if this is going to work or not. We shall see. And then 2 teaspoons of pink salt. I haven't got any pink salt, so I'll be using regular salt. And you have to make the caramel. And then once that's all been set in the freezer for about an hour, you do a chocolate topping. So I'm going to make a start on this first because it's multiple layers and stages. So I'm going to do this bit first. Thank you, Mabel. Appreciate it. Move on to the caramel, which looks the most fiddly. And then pop it in the freezer and do the chocolate. Now I've baked the bases in the oven until they go slightly brown and they feel very firm, so that's good. They've been out about 5 minutes. I've made the caramel, which is very fluorescent. The instructions do say it will be yellow, that it will thicken, and leave it to cool, which I had done for about 5 minutes, and stirred it to get the heat out. I tasted it. It does taste very similar to caramel. It wasn't overly sweet though. That might be because I used erythritol rather than a stevia brand. This may be the reason why they said to use that. So next time I make it, if I use erythritol, I'll probably use another tablespoon. I thought something was missing, so I've put a little dot of this almond extract in there as well. I thought that might be quite nice, and I've tasted it and I think it does make a nice change. So I'm going to divide this up now by all 12 of these, and then I have to pop it in the freezer for an hour, and fingers crossed that this will set. Hopefully that's not a stevia issue. And then at the end I will put the chocolate layer on and get on with some other bits and pieces that I'm baking in the in-between while it all sets. So now moving on to the chia seed recipe. This one I've made loads of times before. It is from perfectketo.com, chia seeds crackers. A lot of them recipes I was looking for a chia seed cracker recipe was like, bake for an hour and a half. I'm like, are you for real? No way, I ain't got time for that. This one is in, I think it's 15 minutes, so, and it's very simple. Basically, I've got 100 grams of chia seeds, about 75 grams of almond flour in there, and that's the dry, and then you just add into the dry the flavorings you want. So I've put some garlic powder in there. I put quite a lot of salt in there because I like salty crackers, pepper, just to bring it through. Without them they're a bit bland, if I'm honest, so definitely season them as a basis. If you just want plain crackers, then do so, but onion powder is really nice in here as well. For this variation, because I've made these a few times and I'm pretty confident these are going to turn out nice, I'm going to be a bit braver this time. I'm going to put in there a teaspoon of erythritol, and I'm going to put in there a teaspoon of chilies because I want to make it come out like a sweet chili cracker. That's kind of my logic. So there's not many in here. You're looking at, I'm barely going to bother registering it to be honest with you. I'm going to put in here, that's all the dry ingredients. You put 1 egg in here. I'm going to put a teaspoon of that in there. I can also put a splash of water, which is not in the suggestions, but I think that, and I'll blend it all up and leave it for 5 minutes just to let the chia seeds absorb some of the moisture. I think it adds to the texture. And once that's all blended up, you would roll it between 2 pieces of parchment as square as you can. you mark it off into cracker shapes that you like the look of. You can either use a like a cookie cutter, which I did the first time and it was just absolute faff. But what I do now is lay it out completely flat on a baking sheet with parchment on it and then divide it up. I do a 7 by 7, which gives what, 30, can't remember maths, 30 something, 30 crackers I think it works out, I can't remember maths. And each, for 5 crackers, it works out 1.8 carbs, so it's an absolute carb bargain. So I'm going to add in my wet ingredients now, my egg, my splash of water and those chili seeds, blend it all up. And the faffiest part of it is the rolling of it out, but I'm getting pretty good in it now. And I'll quickly show you these before they go in the oven for the 15 minutes. And I might do a little taste test to see how the chili takes as well and see how they go. So I have rolled it out between the 2 parchments. It's fairly even thickness all across, not too wrinkly. And you could here you could sprinkle with extra things like extra salt and pepper, parmesan maybe, whatever you fancy. And see how it's quite thin, which is fine. It's not going to rise or anything like that. Now I'm going to divide it up. It's 5 by 7. I couldn't remember my maths. It's 5 by 7. And I think 5 crackers it was 1.5 or 1.8. With the extra chilies I'm going to go 1.8 on there. So I'm going to divide it all up, so score it with this, pop it in the oven. I think it was about sort of medium oven, about, I put only gas mark 6, which is, what is it, 200? I don't know. And pop it in the oven until it just looks cooked, essentially, until it starts to turn brown. Now bouncing back onto the final part of these Fatbombs, which is the chocolate topping, and it says here to use 100 grams of 90% chocolate and 50 grams of coconut oil. Now I'm not a big chocolate eater, particularly keto chocolate. I've actually got this in the cupboard. Oh, I've got more actually, jeez. That I've got in like boxes that I've got, and I always go for the jelly sweets first, if I'm honest. And none of it's 90%, because 9% chocolate to me is just oil. But I've got, it's as close as I've got is the 73% here, and it's actually 85 grams, so it's not as dark and not as much. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this, what I've got. I'm also going to use slightly less coconut oil so that it does set properly, and I think I'm also going to put a drop of the almond into the chocolate as well, like I did with the caramel, just to give it that little taste. And I may put a bit of teaspoon of erythritol in it because I just don't like dark chocolate, it's too bitter for me. So it says to heat it up and blend these together, la 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 la. I'm just going to put it in the microwave on like a low setting and keep stirring and stirring until it's all melted and mixed, and then I'll tip it over the malt. And I just pulled the caramelized bases out of the freezer, and they definitely have set, so they're not using stevia, hasn't caused a problem. I think it must be just the sweetness and the palate. So they are very solid indeed. So I'm going to put on the chocolate mixture, which blends it okay. I did put the almond in there as well, just to spread it all up. And now I've put all this into the MyFitnessPal to calculate it out for me. The person who wrote this recipe said it was going to be 248 calories, 2.2 carbs, and 25 grams of fat, and it's pretty darn close using what I've used. It's about 20 calories less, 0.2 of a calorie extra, so 2.4 carbs, and it is 25 grams of fat. So this is definitely a good contender for fat bomb. I mean, 25 grams of fat, wow. But I'm just gonna put on my chocolate now and put it back in the freezer for an hour, and maybe do a little taste test. And the final thing which I'm cooking, which is actually going to be my dinner tonight, some of it is going to be, and the rest is going to be for freezer meals, is I'm going to make a very, very lazy lasagna. Not really lasagna, because lasagna means you have to have layers. I'm not really that bothered about the layers. I've got here, now I will calculate the carbs as I'm going. I don't know at the moment. It's going to be under 10, I would hope. But yours may vary depending on your choices and your ingredients and all those things, because I tend to use the scraps of what I've got. And you may want to not do that. Go somewhere like Keto Diet app. There's lots of lasagna recipes on there. There's lasagna roll-ups using zucchini strips, which look really nice. Basically, there's probably about 1,000 different keto-friendly lasagna recipes, but I'm just showing you this one because this is what I'm doing, and I like to share what I'm up to. So this week I bought a pack of beef mince in the shopping. It looks a bit small, and then I remembered I've got some from the butcher from about 6 weeks ago, so I defrosted that. I probably about the same amount. How much is 500 grams, is it? So yeah, I don't know. I will weigh it out so I can measure it all properly. And then obviously you would need, I've got a half an onion. You could use, say, celery, if you wanted it to bring down the carbs a little. I'm just going to use it up to get rid of it because obviously it's my fridge. and some garlic as well. You could use powdered garlic if you prefer, or whatever you fancy. And then I've got some Italian style herbs from my supermarket. Then you'll need obviously some tomato. You can either use tomato paste and maybe a little bit of stock to water it down so it spreads a little further. It might be a little dry for you. I'm using a very small tin of tomatoes, also with herbs again. This whole tin has got 9 carbs in it. Tomatoes are such, you know, high carb items, so I do get those half tins where I can. My other little secret treat I always put in a bolognese or a chili is always a squirt of ketchup, because it makes it a little bit sweeter, it makes it thicker, and it's also got those salts and peppers, all the seasonings in there. This particular variety, the no added sugar and salt, is the lowest one, which is actually very edible. So for a tablespoon, it's only 0.8, so it is definitely worth putting it in there. I'll just put a good squirt in there. Obviously salt and pepper. This might be a little bit sloppy, so I am going to try, guys, with this spaghetti. It's not huge. I just don't like it too much. It's better than konjac, but I'm going to make one portion up. I'm going to boil it up. It doesn't take too long in a saucepan, and just use that one portion and make it quite small. Break up into pieces, and then mix it in to give it a little bit of a more sort of solid appearance, because obviously layers. Now in terms of layers, I'm not going to do any today because I'm not that fussed. I'm more about the cheese. So you know, you do you. So in terms of the layering section of this, obviously pasta is out generally, unless you can get, I think, hearts of parm make a sheet. You can get them. You can't get them in the UK. I don't think. You can get lasagna sheets from there. You could use pancetta, prosciutto. Yeah, prosciutto. I always get it wrong. Like the very thin ham. I make ham slices. I've done that before, but in all honesty, I didn't taste it or feel it, so I thought it was kind of a fiddle and a faff and a bit more money for no benefit for me. You could use zucchini, courgette, thinly sliced, and also spaghetti squash, I think you could use, or you could use butternut squash thinly sliced as well. But again, that's quite a high carb one, but people do like that if they're not overly fussed. With this one, I'm just going to put in a portion of that to make it a little thicker, and then my cheese falls on top. But you make it how you see fit. Find a recipe that you like online and go for it. I'm using what I've got with as much interest as I possibly can into this basically cheesy meatness. I'm going to crack on, cook my onion and my garlic, fry off my meat, get that going, and then start throwing in everything else, and then move on to the cheese sauce. And the mince is done. I've put in those spaghetti noodles. I've given it a taste. It's actually really nice. The noodles are not too much. I think they just absorb some of the flavour. So I'm going to transfer this into this tiny little dish. So it's going to be quite a deep one, hopefully. I might have to upgrade that dish, actually. And then I'm going to move on to the cheese sauce layer. And the final part now, I'm going to make that cream cheese on top. Now, ideally, it'd be good to use something like ricotta. Paul, bless his heart, went shopping today with his mask on, and they just didn't have any, so I'm going to fake it. I'm going to use some sour cream. We use about half a carton of sour cream, half pack of cream cheese. I'm going to warm it up in the microwave. This is just going to be a microwave situation. I'm going to throw in there onion granules, garlic powder, salt and pepper, some parmesan. Mix it up, spread it over the base. That pan was slightly too small, so this actually goes in the oven just fine. So I'm going to put it over here, and then sprinkle it off with about 70 grams of grated cheese. This is mature, I think. I can't remember. So I'm going to make this sauce, tip it on, throw on the cheese, and get it all nice and bubbly. And I'm done. So, little recap. We've got my sweet chili crackers. I've tasted two, and they're really, really good. They are probably a little bit sweeter would be good, but so nice. Just the right amount of heat. This is going to be so nice with cream cheese in the week. So that's going to be a snack for me. And 5 of those is about 1.8 carbs, so very, very low, very reasonable, and just tasty. I've got those Fatbombs, and there's one I've just peeled back from the freezer. I'm going to bag these up and keep them in the freezer. These were 2.4 carbs, about 250 calories if I remember rightly, and I'll have one of those for dessert tonight. And finally, the pan-baked lasagna. Lasagna's a faff no matter what you do with it. It's only so easy you can make it. I'm going to have a quarter of a pan. Worked out about just under 700 calories and about 8.8 carbs, so that's a very nice portion size for that. And that's me done. So I've got 3 of those spare for the week. I've got a week's worth of snacks there and a couple of weeks worth of Fatbombs. When I had the lasagna for dinner, it was really nice. I think that it could have a little bit more cheese sauce on top, but I think also I could have doubled that spaghetti because I think it added a nice bit of thickness to it, and it tasted fine. So for next time, I'm definitely going to do that. I had a fat bomb for afterwards. It was really, really nice. It wasn't overly sweet, and at first I thought, oh, it's not sweet enough, but actually it was good, because I think if you, things like that, because the fat content was like 25 grams, too sweet may have been a little bit too much and a bit rich. So they were absolutely brilliant. So I'm keeping those ones in the freezer. I've got my lasagnas in the fridge for the week. I've got the crackers in the cupboard ready for cream cheese snacks throughout the week as well. And that's me done. I hope you're doing really well. You're doing your best and keeping on track. I will see you guys in the week for, who knows, groceries and all those things. And yeah, thanks very much for joining me. I will see you guys in the next one.